Sure. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Alright, so for those who are joining us on Facebook, you are now part of the Logical Progression class, which is what we hold every single week here at the site, which is known as, which is found at www.logicalprogression.org. And in this particular week's lesson, because of the number of people asking me via all, whenever I see them, or emails or XYZ, I wanted to just get over and done with and deal with the issue of the coronavirus. The concerns from Muslims about the coronavirus, and I'm going to give my take on it. That take is obviously going to be subjective. Subjective actually from both angles. So from the medical background that I have is subjective because I come from a pharmaceutical background, which is therefore drugs, which is therefore vaccines, which is therefore immunizations. I specialize in immunizations actually, and I'm a pro in terms of vaccine kind of user, and of course there is an important voice out there which is anti-vaccine, anti-medication, etc., etc. So you do need to understand that even medical professionals that are dealing with scientific facts and statistics are just using the stats and figures like they want to. And in actual fact, when we speak about the coronavirus numbers and figures, I'll illustrate that, just how easily it can be misread, right? Or how you could build two quite different narratives, depending upon what kind of stats you use. And then the Islamic background, the Islamic angle as well I want to share, because the Islam does speak about illnesses, infections, epidemics as well, or pandemics, and our approach to it from a physical point of view and from a theological point of view as well. And I want to try and cover that as the first part of this class. And then we're going to turn the Facebook off, and then we'll just carry on the Logical Progression portal. So, Bismillah. Now, I've put it in speech marks coronavirus because, of course, anyone that's a medical profession knows that there's no such thing as a coronavirus. The coronavirus is a family. It's a particular subtype of viruses, and the coronavirus family are effectively the ones that the common cold is a type of coronavirus. It's a type of virus which is very similar to a coronavirus. The influenza virus, very similar to it. SARS is a coronavirus. MERS, the Middle Eastern version of the SARS, which is like a mutated form, that is a coronavirus. And then the current one, which is called the Wuhan or blah blah Chinese one, it's actually they've given it an official name of COVID-19. It's another form of the coronavirus. All of these viruses are ironically actually very basic in nature, well understood, even though they are mutations can occur, and even though the situation gets worse when it's animal initiated, which is this one seems to be, and they're upper respiratory tract infections most of the time. There's different viruses, killer viruses, the ones that make people very, very worried and scared, like Ebola or whatever. They will have very specific actions, whereas this very common ordinary family of viruses, they basically deal on the lungs. That's what we mean by the upper respiratory tract. So it affects your breathing, and obviously people are very worried and scared, and the reason that people are very worried and scared is mostly because of lack of information, or not understanding the information, or fear of the unknown. Okay, these are the actual kind of real reasons why there's panic going around amongst people, because when you break it down in terms of what it actually does, how many people it infects, the way that it infects and so on, we're not dealing with anything new. Coronaviruses have been around for a long time, and this one is not particularly nasty or a mega killer. SARS was far more dangerous in terms of mortality rate. The Middle Eastern version, MERS, was far more, and that was for example, in the Muslim countries in Saudi Arabia, and that reached a mortality rate of 40%, right? SARS maybe 20, crazy numbers realistically. The correct number for and obviously I'm playing along with the crowd and the narrative. I've gone to the very negative, to the mortality rate. The mortality rate of this current coronavirus is between 1 to 3%. Okay, And this is a number which is also very difficult to digest for a number of reasons. One, because of reporting rates. Two, because of death rates. Is it because are people dying because of this virus or associated conditions? And when they die, do you associate it and put it under the column of the virus or not? And then a breakdown of actual quality of diagnosis and reporting and so on and so forth, especially as it's the winter. And in the winter, around, if you look at a calendar year, in a calendar year, we have approximately 300, 400, up to 700, maybe 650,000 people who die every year from influenza. Okay? Every year. Now, they're far more accurate in ascertaining that this was the reason, because the vast majority of anyone who dies from a virus is because of they're already immunocompromised. They're already very old or very young, or they have a very particular strain on their body. That strain could be a baby, meaning they're pregnant. That strain could be because they have HIV, or because they're immunocompromised, or because they are taking steroids or high steroid treatment for something. So they are very weak. They don't eat a lot. They're not drinking a lot. So their immune system is just weak generally, right? So these are people who are under threat from the most basic of stuff. A common cold can kill some of these people. So it's actually really difficult to be very accurate about these figures. And that lack of accuracy causes panic. And people are then not sure what's going on. Obviously, everything new, that causes panic, okay? Social media is a disaster, right? If this happened 10, 20 years ago, no one would even know or care about this, right? One of the biggest problems of being in a 24-hour news cycle is that literally we're hearing it said again and again and again and again, and it's dominating every single news story at the very highest level. It's not like it's getting pushed down, like normal wars or incidents after a couple of days. It's consistently for the last 2 months been number one news story, and it's just in ramping up, new figure, new country, this, that, whatever. And I remember reading some of the psychologists that were involved in this, that have been assessing it, and some of the points they've been making, two interesting points which maybe have not occurred to you, is number one, the fear aspect beforehand, which causes panic, which is when you add an exotic name to it. So you call it the Wuhan virus, and you call it the Chinese one. We're already petrified of the Chinese anyway, right? Okay, so I mean they wouldn't need to do anything, to make us absolutely brick it anyway, let alone send a virus our way, right? Then add conspiracy theories that this is their chemical weapons side gone wrong, their biological weapons gone wrong, this is punishment for what they did to the Uyghur community, etc., etc. These are Islamically, these hold no water. If someone's got scientific proof of this, then good luck. Islamically, though, we don't believe per se that we can say with certainty this is a person this is a country or a people that are being punished in a specific way, because you'll find many logical responses to that. And the conspiracy idea that the Chinese are trying to cause a problem, actually it's the Chinese research which is allowing the rest of the world to deal with it. So for example, us being given the genetic code in the rest of the countries or genetic sequence of the actual virus is allowing the rest of the countries to not only start looking for vaccines, but also to test for it. And once you have the genetic sequence, you can then produce, different countries can use their health system and their research facilities to create different tests that can give a result in a couple of hours to a couple of days, according to their budget, etc. So this is not about conspiracy. There is no, it's not an unfounded scare kind of tactic. There is a real problem which is going on, but it is definitely sensationalized. And genuinely, if you are in an area where you're not getting news updates every single moment, then you wouldn't be worried about this at all. And if you think that every year 650,000 people are dying of influenza, okay, 650,000, and then you count back about how many years we know that influenza has been an active, actual virus killing people, I think at least 50 years, right? I'm sure the 60s or something like that. We're talking billions of people. We're talking huge numbers. No, not billions, millions, tens of millions of people. Now, that's something that would freak you out, but it doesn't, because we're used to it. And so because this is new and because this is being repeated, then it's getting out of control. The number itself, as I said, in terms of deaths, if you were to be very scientific, then the influenza virus is a 1 in 1,000, or less than 0.1%. That's the easiest way to put it. less than 0.1% of the people it kills, right? And again, that 0.1%, when you look into it, are mostly the people who are immunocompromised. The UCL, University College London, they reckon that the current median or mean mortality rate from with all the problems of determining that is 0.8%. I was looking at some figures to give you an even more accurate idea. From a child point of view, from 0 to 9, 0% in terms of mortality. 10 to 19 ages I'm talking about, 0.2%. And it's 0.2% up until 50. Okay, so from 20 to 29, 0.2. From 30 to 39, 0.2. Then it starts to go to 1%, then 3%. It is at 80 plus that you get the vast majority. 14.8% mortality. So that's when you have very poor quality lungs and breathing strength and immune system that is affecting people. So from a medical background, this is quite a common virus which is being spread and actually not very infective. Okay, so it's not like what I mean by it's not like a gas airborne that can spread for miles and whatever. That's the extreme of super infective, right? And at the same time, it's not also completely inert. It is via airborne droplets which will enter your system, mostly your nasal membrane or through your mouth. This is where it will basically enter after someone coughs or sneezes, right? And so that's why everything that you're hearing from the medical professionals, and everyone's looking for some great kind of scientific answer, and people are disappointed because there's nothing to tell you. You just got to, if you yourself are coughing, then be a normal insan, not some dumb okay? And I think, honestly, genuinely, the greatest benefit of this MARS, or this COVID-19, is that now we've got justification to slap those dumb who are, in the masjid. Every time you're there, someone's just coughing. Now, finally, alhamdulillah. Okay, I know this is meant to be an Islamic class, so you're not allowed to slap that person, but at least you can have a real go at them, okay? And they'll know, and they'll feel really kind of embarrassed now. It's an actual reason that you've got to stop acting such a stupid, irresponsible way. And that's just generally across the board, let alone with this condition. Now, so that's how it's spread, by someone either coughing and sneezing on you and you swallowing, or you inhaling that, or you touching those particles, like for a person. And this is why I wanted the Islamic part in this as well. There's a lot of discussion about cough into a hand or cough into a tissue. The NHS sign is, what is it? Cough it, what is it? Catch it, bin it, kill it. Okay? This is not an Islamic concept. And actually it's astonishing that it's a National Health Service concept as well. Okay? Because you would have to be the most, mashallah, so smooth with your hands and your ability to use a tissue and not get it on your hand if you are sneezing and coughing, right? So you'd have to have, normally what happens when you take a tissue out? It's not that big, is it? It's been scrumpled up, yeah? And when you're about to cough, sneeze, it's all panic, grab me on my tissue, right? And by the time that you're scrunching it open, you sneeze into like, a ball of it, like that, right? So your hand is the one which is still being infected. Still is the one. So you can go and catch it and sneeze it and bin it and kill it and as much as you want. The truth is, it's going on your hands, which is why they're going big on you got to keep washing your hands every single second, whatever. Now, I want you to know that there's nothing in our deen which tells us that when you cough and sneeze, you're meant to put your hand out. Yeah, that's only for yawning, right? We only have, and even then, actually the asl is to close your mouth, not even to use the hand, right? The correct way, both from a insan way, social etiquette way, is to use your bicep and your elbow and to trap it like this. So when you cough, you should move away from a person so they're not in the direct zone. So if you're there and you go, that's it. Coughing, sneezing, you don't need to get your hands involved. And especially Muslims, where it is a sunnah to be shaking hands, right? It's a sunnah to be shaking hands. You should not be using your hands for this kind of thing, right? it's just irresponsible. Not everybody throws a tissue in the bin immediately. People leave these things around, blah, blah, blah. And hands are not always being washed. Although, of course, we know that in our deen, we're meant to be making wudu regularly. It's a sunnah to make the wudu, although not obligatory. But it's a sunnah to make the wudu for each prayer. Okay, so there's a regular washing process anyway encouraged. So, I mean, basic etiquette is an opportunity here for everybody to learn. And so we should ensure that if we have these kind of coughing conditions, whether we have the condition or not, we should at least know how to cough and not spread the disease itself. What are the symptoms of this? Exactly like the common cold. Fever, coughing, and the key, a bit of a headache. The key is the breathlessness. Okay? Now, every upper respiratory tract infection causes breathlessness or causes it more difficult for you to breathe. That's why someone who has a very bad chest infection, we give them an inhaler even though they don't have asthma or something like that, because it's really bad on their chest. This, when it gets very bad, can cause pneumonia and bronchitis, which is the two conditions that if they become very, very serious, then cause the death that everybody is leading to. This doesn't have other ways that it kills people. All right, it's not some mysterious kind of killer. One of the interesting ways that you can distinguish this from other coughs and colds and all the rest of it is that it doesn't have a runny nose, or very rare does it have a runny noses. Doesn't cause diarrhea. Doesn't cause the other symptoms that you might associate with being ill. So this is like a really bad cold stroke flu. And anybody who's had flu will more than likely feel far worse in having a bad case of flu than they would if they have the coronavirus. So those are the facts with respect to the condition itself. And if a person gets it, you all heard what they're telling you. Isolate yourself. Just try not to spread it to anybody else. And that is an important point, because it might not seem very kind of, clear that you've got it, but the incubation is there and you can infect people during that period of time as well. And there is no secret medication, there's no vaccine available for it, there's no antiviral medication that works against it. All you'll be needing to do is to take antipyretic medication. Antipyretics are those which reduce your temperature, so paracetamol, ibuprofen. These are the things that will be reducing your fever, and you'll be taking lots of water to keep yourself rehydrated and lots of sleep to keep your body strong in terms of its immune system. That's what everybody will do. So I want people to realize that before I even get into the Islamic deen, tawakkul, theology part, this is a basic infection. All right, this is not the killer Ebola, on drugs and on steroids times 4 that is being made out to be. And we've got to have a little bit of self-respect and recognize that that the very nature of social media and the news cycle has made it so more terrifying than it actually is. Now let's talk about the Islamic side of this and what the Muslims' approach should be towards it. Of course, the Prophet ﷺ said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala anzal ad-da wa anzal ad-dawa, that He has sent down the disease and sent down the cure as well. So we are a scientific nation that do not believe in abandoning traditional medication, that you just go in there and tawakkul Allah and don't worry about anything whatsoever. No one can affect me if Allah is with me, and this kind of approach. And that's incorrect. If there is a condition which there is a cure for, or there is a strategy or a protocol that needs to be followed, then you need to follow. The Prophet ﷺ in a number of hadith, and I was just looking at some of them that I can use, a number of them actually are related to camels. There was very little, from what we, not very little, but relatively, in terms of infection amongst humans in the Sunnah. All right, when you look at medical conditions. But amongst the animals and amongst trees, yes, a number of mentions of that. And that's why cross-fertilization is something which needs to be controlled, and as also why animal breeding is also something which needs to be controlled. So for example, the Prophet ﷺ said that a sick animal should not be mixing with the healthy ones, right? This is hadith sahih. However, this is not taken to the... So this is on one side. The other hadith that we know is of plague. If you hear about the plague in a land, فَلَا تَقْدَمُوا عَلَيْهِ, then don't go towards that place. And if you are in a place where it is, then don't flee from it. And if you are in a place that has been quarantined because of the plague, then don't flee from it. So this is the one side where the Prophet ﷺ is clearly telling us, be cautious and don't go and cause trouble. Now the trouble here is linked, the illah is linked to the plague, or is linked to severe conditions, right? The plague is something which is an entire different kettle of fish to the normal influenza virus or coronavirus or something like that. The fatality rate is incomparable and the seriousness is incomparable. When the Prophet ﷺ is speaking about conditions like leprosy and like plague, there's a level of seriousness which, some people are asking, for example, should we go to Hajj or not? And should we go to Umrah or not? Should we go to Pakistan or not? All right, should we go on our family holiday or not? 100% you should. 100%. And when you go to Pakistan, okay, I'll tell you something. Coronavirus or no coronavirus, you're going to become so ill that you said, I'm going to die. You'll say that coronavirus's dad has just infected me, and his mum. Okay, you'll be sitting on that toilet. Okay, and it's not just that all your Ghana's going to come out. What was thingy? Peeing out your. The chief has a phrase for that. Okay, he is encapsulated exactly what happens when you go to Pakistan. Listen, your whole organs will come out. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Now, normally, if you saw someone whose organs were coming out of his mouth and bleeding to death, you'd say this is the worst thing in the world. So why is it anything less when it's coming out the other end? Right? You'll feel so weak. You'll feel so I'm telling you. Now, there's a joke side to that, and there's a real side to it as well. I mean, last year we went to Pakistan with the family, and some of them got really ill. And obviously, I know that you think that just because they asked for drop, put him on drop, a drop was given, because that's obviously obligatory starting point. However, it helped out. It did. And they do require rehydration and glucose and saline and all the rest of it. So, before you even care about coronavirus, you will be suffering something which will leave coronavirus for dead in terms of its severity. Hajj and Umrah. Let me tell you something. Hajj is not possible. It's just not physically possible. And I don't know how many years I've been going now. To go to Hajj and not get ill. And people call it, it's a very soft name, they call it Hajji cough. You call it Hajji, you know who calls it Hajji cough? The people who don't have Hajji cough. That's who call it Hajji cough. As for the ones who get it, they basically said, I'm dead. I'm dead, I'm dying, I'm dead. Alhamdulillah that I got to the haram, bury me in Baqiyah. They start speaking in all these romantic phrases. They don't realize that nothing's going to happen. They're going to be chucked in a bulldozer somewhere else. Honestly, it is a mad level of illness. It genuinely is. And last year, just to give you, so I obviously get this infection all the time, and it's a viral infection, okay? And you're coughing up absolutely everything. You can't breathe. You can't do everything. We're giving people crazy antibiotics, not for the virus infection, but to prevent, because your body becomes so weak, but to prevent then you being taken advantage of by a secondary bacterial infection. So we're going in with amoxicillin 250 milligrams 3 times a day, azithromycin, bam, 3 days, double the dose, carmoxyclav 1200 milligrams 3 times a day, no messing about, proper hardcore behavior. And then we're giving that to every single person that moves, right? And people are literally dying. I mean, they are in a really bad way. And so I want you to know that when it comes to these hadith, even just for context, there was no scholar that I know of in history that considered it haram to go to a land of plague. Even a land of plague. This hadith, this statement of la taqdimu alayhi is not an amr al-wujub. Most of the scholars said that at worst it is makruh. So what about then a country or a place where it's not the plague and where the baseline is illnesses that is going to infect everyone as part of normal day reality, which is far less than the condition that you're going to, or that you're worried over, that you're scared of. So I think that you shouldn't be cancelling your summer holidays to wherever you're going. I don't believe that is the way, that fear is the way. Legal things is something different. If the Foreign Office, for example, wants to reduce travel because of safety protocols, because it wants to control the infection, and of course it wants to control the infection. People might say you're belittling the condition. I'm not belittling the condition. A country has a responsibility to protect everybody, not just the rest of us who are not 90 years old or not 1 year old. Yeah? Just because the rest of us are going to recover, the vast majority of us, and we have far greater chance of being killed by 100 other things, doesn't mean that it's all about us. So a government has a responsibility to its elderly, and it can't afford for the elderly to get hit because a large number will perish as a result. So I'm not belittling it. It is serious, but in serious and immunocompromised populations. So you yourself should not have this unnecessary panic. And if the foreign office, for example, says, like it said now, don't go to China. This is a common sense statement. So don't go to China. It says don't go to North Italy because of the current situation right there. You don't go to North Italy. It hasn't said anything else to other countries. And until it says that, that is how you operate. Now, that's following the legal system of the land, which is great. The theology, though, is something very different. I want you to understand that Muslims should not be so weak-minded. It's very, very important. A Bedouin came to the Prophet ﷺ, hadith sahih, and said that, these camels are, how can we stop this infection spreading? And this camel here, he's going to infect everybody else. You know what the Prophet ﷺ said? Prophet ﷺ said, and who infected the first one? Who infected the first one? Meaning that this is from the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This idea that it only is that it's something we're all out of threat of. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created and started the virus, and then it will then vanish into nothingness. Either it will go and close, or it will just continue and it will take its base number of people every year, like the common cold does, like HIV does, like every other virus that you just don't care about because it's not in the news. And our iman in that is very, very important. That's why the Prophet ﷺ very quickly came out and said, anyone who dies from ta'un, from the plague, is shaheed. Anyone who dies from an infection which has come and infected them in this virulent kind of manner, that in an unexpected manner, in this kind of way, then they are shaheed. To calm the people down and to allow their iman to come through. The other hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said that the believers do not infect one another. Now, this does not mean that you don't take precautions. It means that we cannot go into society thinking that everybody is an infective risk. This is not how Muslims act. This is not how our iman should be. So, at the same time, the medicines that are available, when the vaccine comes, then it's it should be taken by the people who need to take it. Like, I'll give you an example right now. How many people are taking the flu vaccine? Even the elderly who are in this country at genuine risk of death if they get flu, they are offered it for free. They're not just offered it for free, they're begged to take it. They get phone calls and letters. And what do all our parents do? And it's, and that's it. Put it in the bin and that's it. How many of them actually go and get the vaccination against the flu? So, what I'm saying is that if the human mind is going to relax and understand the threat of just normal conditions can cause illness, then we shouldn't overreact to the coronavirus as well. And that's from a Dini point of view, that we take practical steps, but we don't exaggerate it and make it into something which is making us so scared and worried and not interacting with people. This is not right. This is unacceptable, right? Especially for something which is clearly not in the categories of the major killers or whatever they are. All right, that's what I wanted to share for everybody who... sorry, the other associated matters. The main associated matter is that people who are asking that if they have a package holiday, let's say that they have a package holiday to Spain, or a package holiday to Hajj, or a package to Hajj, or a package to XYZ, and they are afraid that it'll get cancelled, right? And how can they protect themselves? Is it permissible to claim against the travel agent? Answer is yes, it is permissible, okay? And this claiming against the Thomas Cook who would have sold you that package, or a Hajj company that would have given you the Hajj package, this claiming against them is an insurance contract, okay? Even though you've not signed an insurance contract. In Islam, speaking from a classical Islamic point of view, there is no basis for, as far as, in my opinion, as far as I know, according to the limits of my knowledge, there is no Islamic basis for you to get a refund. If you have paid, for example, for a holiday to Spain, and they've bought the flights, they've paid for the hotels, the deal is done, and then it gets cancelled, Islamically speaking, that is the qadr of Allah, and it happened, and that's it. It's not the problem of the package people, blah, 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 blah. However, all of the package people in this country are ATOL, or they should be ATOL, registered. And it is their policy that the companies have to refund it. So you have the ability to request a refund. Now, the vast majority of scholars consider insurance to be impermissible. And likewise, they include travel insurance to be impermissible. Many of you know that I hold the position that the minority of scholars hold. And I've spoken about that before in detail, that I consider insurance to be permissible. And therefore, by extension, I also consider a travel insurance contract to be permissible. Here, even though you've not taken out a travel insurance contract, it is permissible, in my opinion, to claim against the company via ATOL standards to get your money back if your holiday is cancelled because of the coronavirus. Is it permissible for you to take out travel insurance just in case, because ATOL might not come through, or maybe it doesn't have cover, or maybe the company is not ATOL protected? I believe the answer is yes. You can proactively take out travel insurance. I consider it to be a permissible contract, and I consider the payment that you get that is commensurate to the loss that you would suffer. I think that that's allowed for you to claim. If you claim, it's not permissible for you though to say, I've spent £5,000 on this holiday, and but I'm claiming back £15,000, £5,000 for the costs that I've lost, and £10,000 for the emotional distress of not going on holiday. Yeah, this is bakwas. Yeah, and that's of course what the insurance industry, that's the corruption that happens in that, right? And people just add on and add on and add on. Islamically, that's not allowed, and I don't allow it either. So I believe that you are allowed to take measures, take an insurance policy to protect your holidays or whatever, or to claim off at all. All right, those I think cover most of the issues. And if a vaccine is created, then I believe that it is allowed to take it. I don't think it's obligatory, and I don't even think it is recommended. But it is allowed for a person who wishes it, because I do not believe medical treatment is an obligation in Islam. There has to be a weighing up of pros and benefits, pros and cons rather. So I think that pretty much. Anyone have any side angles to come at that want clarification? Anybody? Are we done? All right. Jazakumullah khair. Barakallahu feek. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Right. You can close the thingy down.